man is in custody after a manhunt in the Lake of the Ozarks today. Good afternoon, I'm Katie Link.
And I'm Jim Rick. Thanks for joining us. Police and the Highway Patrol searched for more than 14 hours for a registered sex offender from Hannibal. KOMU 8's Rose Schmidt is live at the lake with the details on today's search.
I followed the search through multiple locations today in Lake Ozark and Miller County. Officers were led from the woods behind Heritage Elementary School and Route 242 to the woods UCB.
Troopers identified the man as 33-year-old John Fogel from Hannibal. Once again, Fogel is a registered sex offender. He's faced previous drug and sexual assault charges in Marion and Cole counties.
A second flea infestation in less than a week has Columbia citizens itching for answers. First, it was the Columbia Public Library, and just this morning, the Boone County Government Center reopened after being treated for fleas. Bug expert Mitch Clevenger said the warm weather may be the cause of the outbreaks. He said female fleas will drop their eggs, which will live in the floor like a cocoon. Once the flea finds something to latch onto and feed off of, it will leave its cocoon. The heat and humidity also helps the fleas hatch. Clevenger says fleas normally prefer pets with fur, but they also latch onto human clothes, and that's how they spread.
I suspect that the recent infestations with the different buildings, I believe those are cooling stations. You get a lot of different people coming in, you know, to be cool that they might have spent a lot of time outside, and perhaps fleas have gotten on them, come inside, and then dropped off.
Clevenger says he thinks the high traffic of people in these buildings could be spreading the fleas. He also said it's common to find fleas in residential places during summer months.
A Missouri inmate sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole will be released in 2 weeks. 62-year-old Jeff Mazansky has served more than 20 years for 3 marijuana offenses. He'll be released September 1st. Mazansky's case was heard by the Missouri Board of Parole on August 6th. 4 days later, his application for parole was approved. St. Louis authorities arrested 9 people after using tear gas to fight back protesters. The wave of protests happened after police fired and killed an armed 18-year-old man. Police say the teen was shot after he pointed a handgun at officers. That prompted protesters to take to the streets, chanting and throwing rocks, bricks, and water bottles at officers. Fires were set in the street, and a nearby vacant home was burned down. Starting in October, Columbia will stop burning coal at its power plant. The city made the announcement in response to new federal environmental regulations on pollutants. The power plant says it could also be changing one or both boilers to burn biomass. The plant produces about 6% of Columbia's energy.
Some employees at Stevens College will be bringing home a bigger paycheck. Today, a representative for the college says the minimum wage for hourly workers will bump to $10 an hour. It went into effect July 1st. The wage increase only applies to full-time staff making less than $10 per hour. It does not apply to students. One mid-Missouri man is $5.7 million richer today. Brian Bach purchased the winning ticket in Versailles 2 weeks ago. The ticket was part of a $200 worth of Quick Pick tickets he bought. He says he plans to use the money to pay off his debts. An electronic message board displaying traffic safety messages might actually be a danger in itself. The Columbia Police Department put the sign up on Broadway last Wednesday. The department says the sign's purpose is to relay safety messages in high traffic areas. The messages include watch out for pedestrians, don't drink and drive, buckle up, and texting can wait. Some Columbians who drive by the sign frequently say it's a distraction.
At first I thought it could be for road work because they've been working on this college, but it had nothing other than, you know, don't text and drive and messages like that, but it's like don't text and drive, but reading and driving, it distracts you too.
One person we spoke with found the sign helpful because it encouraged her to put her phone away. The police department says this is the only message board that belongs to the city.
3 firefighters are dead in Washington state as crews continue to battle a huge wildfire. High winds are making things very difficult and forcing evacuations. NBC's Leanne Gregg reports.
The latest wildfire that erupted in Washington state is being described by the local sheriff as a hellstorm. Erratic flames fueled by high winds broke out Wednesday and quickly multiplied in size, threatening 2 small towns.
I'm hoping when we go back, our house is still there.
More than 1,000 people were evacuated from the towns of Twisp and Winthrop. Residents had little time to get out.
It just came so fast. I mean, oh my God. I mean, the smoke and just the big plumes of smoke.
3 U.S. Forest Service firefighters were killed after their vehicle crashed and they were overcome by flames. 4 other firefighters were injured, 1 critically. 15 wildfires are burning out of control in Washington state, and the forecast isn't helping. Sustained winds of more than 40 miles an hour are predicted. Officials described the fire as a sleeping giant that will be awakened today by an epic wind event.
It's gotten insane, and the wind doesn't go in one direction. It keeps shifting, and it keeps going one way and then the other way.
1 million acres have already burned across the West, with no end in sight. Leanne Gregg, NBC News, near Petraeus, Washington.
More than 100 wildfires have burned 1.1 million acres in several western states. Former New York prison escapee David Sweat has been indicted on 2 counts of first-degree escape and 1 count of promoting prison contraband. After a brief private session in the judge's chambers, Sweat did not enter a plea, so the judge entered a not guilty plea on his behalf. A second guard has been charged for providing tools to Sweat and the other inmate who escaped.
Former President Jimmy Carter revealed he has 4 spots of cancer on his brain. Carter spoke about his diagnosis during a news conference in Atlanta. He is set to begin his treatment this afternoon. The cancer, which is a form of melanoma, will also be treated with medication. He was in good spirits, saying he's been at peace with his prognosis since he first found out the cancer had spread. Heavy flooding in 3 central Chinese provinces has killed at least 13 people. 13 others are missing today. State media said that heavy rains and flooding have been a problem since Monday. Mudslides also destroyed dozens of homes and cut off power. Seasonal flooding is a major problem in many parts of China.
Thailand's military says this week's deadly bombing in Bangkok was unlikely carried out by international terrorists. So far, no person or group has claimed responsibility. Investigators believe it may have been a revenge attack over mass deportations or radical Islamic groups looking to gain a larger footprint in Southeast Asia. 20 people were killed. A change at one U.S.-Mexico border crossing starting this week. Those entering Mexico at San Isidro will have to show a passport, fill out a form, and if staying for more than a week, pay $20 for a 6-month permit. Travelers have long followed similar protocol at Mexican airports, but this decision marks a big change at crossings that were not designed to stop everyone.
Violence erupted at a migrant registration office in Germany today as the country tries to accommodate the influx of newcomers. Some vehicles and parts of the office were trashed and vandalized. It's not clear what started the riot. Germany could see as many as 800,000 migrants arriving this year. That's 4 times as many as last year. So far, 360,000 migrants have arrived in Germany. Feels like fall outside. Will it stick around? Let's send it over to Kenton for a look at your forecast.
Sure does, Katie. 80 degrees right now in Columbia at this moment, looking at 80 in Jefferson.
Thanks, Kenton. Nixon hosted his annual governor's breakfast today. What he had to say about the state's agriculture, that's coming up.
And you're looking live over the capital city on this Thursday afternoon. It's 5:08. This is KOMU 8 News, first at 5. Coverage you can count on.
Governor Jay Nixon hosted the 63rd annual ham breakfast at the State Fair this morning. He spoke out about a number of agricultural issues in Missouri. He said Missouri has $600 million worth of sales with Canada, much of which falls in the agricultural sector. He also discussed scholarships for ag majors, especially those in the dairy industry.
We passed a significant Dairy Reauthorization Act, which will make a big difference. Next year, we'll be moving forward on the 80 scholarships of $5,000 each for students in agriculture degrees, focus on that dairy industry.
Nixon said there was a recent drop in workers in the dairy industry. He hopes these scholarships will encourage more people to go into that field.
Weight loss and genetics can play a role in how much cellulite you have.
It's not a fun thing to talk about.
Nope.
But there is a new treatment that is promising to change without going under the knife. For about 85% of adult women, cellulite is a fact of life. It's most common on the thighs, where bands of fat pull down on the skin, causing puckering or dimples. But there's hope. A new treatment is promising to zap cellulite without surgery and with limited downtime.
Sulfina is unique because it's revolutionizing the treatment of cellulite because we can finally address these thick bands and release them to be able to release the dimples of cellulite.
Patients report seeing results within a month. Studies show a 94% satisfaction rate 1 year after treatment. Last year's Ice Bucket Challenge has helped spur an important breakthrough in the research of the neurodegenerative disease known as ALS. A study published by Johns Hopkins researchers says the $220 million the challenge raised has helped scientists understand more about protein TDP-43. It's something they've been studying for decades. The latest discovery could lead to a cure or better treatment of the disease. The Centers for Disease Control estimates as many as 90% of contact wearers are putting themselves at risk for eye infections. Nearly 1/3 of the 41 million Americans who wear contacts have seen a doctor for red or painful eyes. Well, that could be a result of people keeping contact cases too long and wearing lenses while sleeping. All work and no play. That could make you very sick. According to a new British study, working long hours increases the risk of stroke and heart disease. Researchers tracked more than 500,000 adults over a 9-year period. They found people who worked 55 hours or more per week were 1/3 more likely to suffer a stroke. They were also 13% more likely to develop heart disease than those who were working standard hours.
First the library, then the county government building. Next in today's talk, we talk about fleas. In today's talk, we asked you how 2 public buildings in Columbia were hit by fleas. Here's what you're saying. We begin with Russ. And Russ says it's either a person doing it on purpose that thinks he is wronged by a Columbia official, and this is a way to get back at them. Amy says possibly service dogs. Who knows? It only takes one flea being carried in on a pant leg for them to get started. And Kelly says probably one of the many homeless people I see laying around the library. It's not a homeless day center.
A NASCAR practice event had an unexpected visitor. After the break, we'll tell you who caused a distraction. A suspect is in custody after a manhunt in the Lake of the Ozarks today. KOMU 8's Rose Schmidt is live in Lake Ozark for a recap of our top story. Thanks, Rose. Here's a cute little story to end our newscast. A carrot-chewing critter brought out the red flag at a NASCAR Truck Series practice yesterday. Yep, it's a little rabbit. The guy somehow got onto the track during the final practice. He evaded all of the NASCAR hunters and then ran into the infield. From there, he hopped his way through a fence, under a trailer, and hopefully down a rabbit hole. Kenton?
Well, temperature is going to be cool once again tonight. 70 degrees this evening around 9 p.m. Otherwise, that game. But we do have rain chances starting Saturday.
All right, that's our time for now. Thanks for joining us.
Have a good night, everyone.